At exactly 9:43 in the morning, a sealed document left King Charles' private study. It looked, on the surface, like any other palace document. Another routine piece of royal administration. The kind of thing that moves through those corridors every single day, without anyone outside the institution ever knowing it existed. But within minutes of it being seen by those inside, people who have spent their entire careers reading the language of royal power and knowing instantly what it means, something stopped them cold. One name was missing, a name that, given what this document was, given what it outlined, given the scale of what it was, changing minus should have been there, should have been right there. And it wasn't. Queen Camilla, the woman who wore the British crown, left out. And according to every source close to the situation, it was not a mistake. Welcome to Northwire. Let's dive in. The morning everything shifted. Let me paint you the picture of that morning, because the details matter. 9:43 a.m., not 9 o'clock, not 10 o'clock, not the kind of round number that suggests a scheduled, anticipated event. 9:43. Specific. Almost clinical in its precision. The kind of timestamp that tells you this was not a moment that built up slowly through the morning's business. It was a moment that arrived, with intention, that had been prepared for, that someone had decided. This is the time. The decree left Charles's private study sealed, not circulated through the usual channels, not passed through the layers of advisors and communications teams and palace officials, who normally see everything before it becomes real, sealed, direct, moving fast through the institution, before anyone outside a very small circle could get ahead of it. And what it contained. Sources describe it as one of the most significant documents to come out of the current reign, a set of major reforms to royal representation, changes to how the monarchy presents itself to a public that is increasingly questioning what the institution is, for changes to the structure of royal duties and appearances, changes designed according to those who have seen its contents to ensure the monarchy's survival in a world that is changing faster than the palace is comfortable with, the kind of document that, in any normal reign, would have every senior royal's name on it. It had 3. Charles William, and that was it. The name that wasn't there. I want you to sit with this for a moment. Not as a piece of royal gossip, not as another chapter in the ongoing drama between William and Camilla that Northwire has been following for months, but as a simple, stark, institutional fact. Queen Camilla, the woman who was crowned in Westminster Abbey, who received the formal salute of the British state, who has, by every external measure, the second highest position in the British monarchy, was not on this document. Not a signatory, not even mentioned. In a decree about the future of the institution, she is meant to be central too. Think about what that means. Because in the world of royal protocol, in a system where every name, every title, every position in a procession carries centuries of meaning, omission is never neutral. Omission is a statement. When the palace includes someone, it is saying, this person is part of this. This person belongs here. This person's authority is acknowledged and validated by what we are doing. When the palace excludes someone, especially someone of Camilla's rank, in a document of this significance, the statement is equally clear, and opposite. Inside the palace when it landed, sources close to those who were inside the palace that morning describe what happened when the significance of the omission became clear. And I'll be honest with you, the picture they paint is one of the most human, most revealing things about how this institution actually operates when something genuinely unexpected happens, because the palace, for all its centuries of protocol and preparation and carefully managed communication, is staffed by human beings. And human beings, when they see something that doesn't make sense, react. Not loudly. Not in the way that the public might imagine. No raised voices in marble corridors. No dramatic confrontations in throne rooms. But in the small, telling ways that institutions reveal their true state. Conversations that stopped mid-sentence. Messages sent through internal channels. With the kind of careful, precisely worded language that people use when they're not sure who else is reading. Senior figures who suddenly needed to speak to other senior figures, urgently, privately, and one question, the same question asked, in different ways by different people across different parts of the institution, within the same hour. Why isn't Camilla's name on this? The three who signed it, Charles, William, and Pretend, those three names together on the document. Of their significance tells its own story. Charles the King, his signature is expected. His presence gives the document its authority, but even the most powerful king cannot move the institution without those who will carry his legacy forward. Without the future, William the future king, his inclusion is not just appropriate, it is essential. A decree about the monarchy's direction that didn't include William would be a decree about a future that William doesn't share. His name is there because this is his vision as much as Charles's. And then there is Anne, Princess Anne, who has spent decades being the most quietly powerful woman in this family, who works harder than anyone, complains less than anyone, and understands the institution with a clarity and depth that comes from a lifetime of watching it from the inside. Anne, who, as Neef Wire has reported, stood beside William at the critical moment, who spoke to Charles in the private, direct way that only a sister can speak to a king, who made it clear without ambiguity, without drama, that Diana's memory would be protected on her watch. Those three names together are not a coincidence. They are a coalition, a statement about who this monarchy's future actually belongs to. And Camilla's name is not among them. What the decree actually changes, let me tell you what this document actually contains. Because the substance matters as much as the symbolism. The decree outlines changes across several areas that go to the heart of how the monarchy presents itself to the public. Royal engagements, how they are allocated, who represents the crown at what events, and how the institution manages the growing expectation that senior royals will be visible, accessible, and genuinely connected to the people. Royal patronages, the charities, organizations, and causes that carry the royal warrant. The decree reportedly includes provisions for reviewing and in some cases reallocating patronages that are no longer serving the monarchy's evolving public mission and public representation. Specifically, the question of who speaks for the crown in an increasingly complex media landscape. Every one of these areas is one where Camilla has been quietly building her position, carefully accumulating patronages, engagements, and the kind of visible public role that was always part of her rehabilitation strategy. And the decree, by excluding her from its authorship, raises the question that nobody in the palace is yet willing to answer out loud. Are those positions about to be reviewed? Buckingham Palace's silence. Buckingham Palace has refused to comment. Those four words are doing an enormous amount of work right now, because the palace comments on things. That is part of what it does. It issues statements, clarifications, carefully worded responses, designed to manage the narrative around sensitive moments. It commented when Harry and Meghan stepped back. It commented when the health questions arose. It comments routinely on the kind of palace intrigue that is far less significant than what we are discussing right now. And it has said nothing. That silence is its own communication. It tells us that the palace does not have a response that would make this better, that whatever explanation might be offered, whatever reframing, whatever contextualization of the decree's significance, would raise more questions than it answered. So they have chosen the only option left, when the truth is more damaging than the silence. They said nothing, and in saying nothing, they confirmed everything. I want to bring you back to 9:43 in the morning, to the moment that sealed document left Charles's private study, to the person or people inside that palace who looked at three names on one of the most significant royal documents in recent years, and realized, with a jolt of something between shock and recognition, that a fourth was missing, and understood what that meant. Because here is the truth about how power moves inside an institution like the monarchy. It rarely announces itself. It doesn't hold press conferences, or make speeches, or stand at podiums and tell the world that something has changed. It moves through documents, through names included, and names omitted, through the quiet, permanent, impossible to reverse language of institutional record, through a decree signed at 9:43 in the morning, that will sit in a royal archive, long after the people whose names are or are not on it are gone, and tell the future exactly what the present chose to say. Charles chose, William chose, Anne chose, together, on paper formally and finally, and Camilla, the woman who waited 30 years, who endured everything, who survived everything, who finally, against all expectation, wore the crown, was not chosen. Not this time. Not for this. Not for the future that William and Anne and Charles are building together. The fallout from that sealed decree has only just begun, and Northwire will be here for every single chapter. Subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Drop a comment. What do you think happens to Camilla now that her name wasn't on that decree? Share this with someone who needs to know what is really happening inside the palace. We upload every single day, and this story is far from over. Thank you for being here on Northwire. New video tomorrow, new truth, new chat. Subscribe, notify, share. The Crown has secrets. We uncover them daily. See you tomorrow.